Share with me, please, any requests or suggestions for a topic today. What is it? Yeah.
Family peace.
Staying neutral in a crisis. Releasing judgment.
Hold on.
Living in the unknown.
Hold on. Okay, go back to the last 15 that were. What were they, the last couple?
Vulnerability.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead, one more.
Trusting your intuition.
Okay. I want to make it clear that, if something is on your mind and you didn't have you didn't feel you could speak it or didn't, for whatever reason, didn't speak it, just put it out there. It's going to come to me anyway. Well, it will. But leave it to God and you, between you and God and I, we're going to get it. It may not hit as specific in the wording you're hoping, but just trust and it'll all be fine. We weave these things together. A wide variety, but devotional, service, forgiveness, vulnerability, abundance, and so on. And one or two of these I might have to wait a week till next week to give them just, do a bigger topic. But a lot of them are related to like staying neutral in crisis and peace in your lives, your relations, your families, your household. Something to think about, because you're bringing up forgiveness. And I love the concept. Some people think, like even just sitting here for today's topic, it could be like you go and you sit and you might hear something interesting. I'm not really interested in that. Something interesting. I like us to go somewhere. I like us to shift consciousness, like go to major places without it being too heavy, without it being, too much for people to absorb. So when I'm sharing, it's sort of a spontaneous channeling, but I don't call it that. Because then people expect me to roll my eyes back and talk in some weird British voice. I don't know why all channeled beings are British, but it's as though they went to some method acting school in London,
Very careful, Mike.
Yeah. Wait, Archangel Michael's coming through. You all know, it's just so strange to me, but it's cool because some are authentic. Let's understand the power of forgiveness, that it's not just an interesting thing. Forgiveness is the primary tool to shifting consciousness. You can do all kinds of other things to raise consciousness, learning, meditating, read books, book studies, groups, all kinds of just whatever, hikes out into the redwoods or the mountains here or wherever you're at. It's all beautiful. But forgiveness is the number one tool for shifting consciousness. You can meditate, stand on your head, whatever. No forgiveness means it's worthless. You can forgive and not eat a good diet, and it's still worth it. You can be on a good diet and not forgive it. You see what I'm saying? It can't be forgotten. Many things you can neglect a bit. Forgiveness, you lose when you neglect. It's something that's essential. Ironically, forgiveness is an illusion. That's what's really strange about it. You could sell a class on forgiveness and go, but by the way, it's all an illusion. How do you sell a book or class that's, on the cover? This book is an illusion. It's not worth anything. That's not what it means. While you're in a body, forgiveness is your number one tool. But forgiveness is an illusion. What that means is there is a level of consciousness where it's no longer necessary. When we're not in a state of judgment, there's no need for forgiveness. When I say there's to be in a state of non-judgment, Some people misinterpret this and misrepresent this to mean, there's people that do this. I'm not a judgmental person. And they do all kinds of hurtful things and they go, well, don't judge me. Well, that's just nice try, but that's just a weird bypassing. To really say we don't judge, or there's, stop judging, like in other words, harmful acts. The problem is that you shouldn't judge them as harmful. No, that's cheating. While we're in a body, we're still understanding that there are things that are hurtful and things that are not hurtful. And it's not calling yourself judgmental to see some things are hurtful that you've done to others, others have done to you. What I'm saying is there's 3 levels, as there often is. You have a spiritual self, a soul self, and a human self. Forgiveness is something we must implement when it comes to our human self. But it's kind of interesting. Our human self is made up of 3 chakras: the root chakra, the emotional chakra, the intellectual chakra, or states of consciousness. Now, forgiveness is seemingly necessary on these 3 levels because of the way we live and act. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to forgive others for things they've done or neglected to do. But the second level of consciousness, our heart and soul, this is where it's not judged and forgiven. Here is a higher level of forgiveness. This is a level of responsibility. I'll explain a little more, but it's a higher level of forgiveness. The third level here, by grace I live, by grace I am released. This upper center, God, the Trinity of God in the 3 upper centers, this is grace. This is the grace of God that you can walk in. But don't think, well, I'm going to go from being a complete judgmental, hurtful person to the grace of God. It really doesn't work that way. You have to first practice letting go of all the false forms of forgiveness. I want you to know I'm a very forgiving person because you're a horrible person. And I've decided I'm going to forgive you for your horrible behaviors. That's judgment being offset by a false form of forgiveness. God bless you, though, because at least the concept entered your mind to forgive. I mean, it's progress. But there's also something called repentance, and that's still of the lower 3 chakras. Repentance isn't here. This is a bit higher than judging, guilt, shame, regret, and repenting. But the word repentance, by the way, means to apologize and make amends. Apology means I truly am sorry for what I've done, but amends is I'm not only sorry, I'm going to make a change. So watch that. When you're saying sorry to people, do you mean it? How do you know you mean it? Because you'll change what you're doing. You see that? And that's a beautiful thing. But repentance is the word sounds so fundamental and so guilt-ridden. Well, it needs to be because that's our human self, which is messed up. So the human self doesn't understand grace. I know people sometimes use the word grace as though it's just easily distributed. It really isn't. And the lower centers, the lower 3 chakras, it's like there's 3 levels of forgiveness. There's the judgment forgiveness, there's the compassion forgiveness, and there's grace. But the lower 3 chakras have ways of dealing with their forgiveness. On the very root chakra level of forgiveness, there's, there's some people that refuse to forgive. You're still at a root level. You're not hopeless, but you're at a root level. So a root level is very primal. It's very, like fine, I guess I'm going to try to make some changes in my life. It's very fundamental. It's at a root chakra level. But you start to grow a little when you enter the emotional level of forgiveness, because that's where we go, I really have messed up. Emotionally, I can feel regret, shame, and so on. So that level is a very beautiful, powerful level to get to for forgiveness. You're still in the lower 3 centers. But the third level is the level of, I'm rising above the guilt and shames, but you still believe in karma at the third level. Karma, meaning it's almost an intellectual approach to forgiveness. Well, I probably have done this. I do believe in forgiveness, but I still have karma to pay. It's still It's us still deciding how much we owe the universe or owe someone else. That's not the grace of God. So all I'm saying is that there's a few levels of human interaction with the concept of forgiveness, including some things you believe are unforgivable. That's all lower three centers, and I don't want to go into too much detail because it's not like you need to evaluate each chakra. All I'm saying is when there's beliefs that there's nothing to forgive, I don't need to ask for forgiveness, defending yourself or refusing to forgive others, okay? You're down here, the human level, because you're still messed up around the idea of forgiveness. Now, the higher level is the heart. See, it's interesting, a lot of Buddhist concepts are love, compassion. That's a higher form of forgiveness, but this gets tricky. Buddhism also has a lot of belief in karma, which means they're also still down a chakra on the intellectual level of forgiveness, which is karma. I've got to work out karma, etc. It's not bad. It's higher than other forms of forgiveness, but it's kind of a blend of third and fourth chakra. But generally speaking, the heart chakra is learning. In our heart center, we're not perfect, but we're learning. Wow, all that was once done to me, not done for me, things I've done, I'm forgiving myself. Here I'm working it. I'm thinking that after a certain amount of lifetimes, a certain karma, I can get past this. Or very tear-filled repentance. It's very deep, but it's got a darkness to it. In other words, the first level still has a connotation of sinfulness. I'm a sinner. I need to forgive myself or others or whatever, right? I need to heal. I need to be forgiven. God, will you forgive me? This is interesting because God actually has never judged. Therefore, to hear this, it sounds sacrilegious. God has never forgiven anything. That either sounds horrible because we're unlovable, God never forgave us, or it's going to be taken all kinds of different directions. But no, God never forgave because God never saw anything to forgive. Which doesn't mean our hurtful behaviors is something God's in denial of. We live at this dimensionality. We live in this density of actions that are not divine. And then we judge ourselves and we judge others. So you're a sinner, I'm a sinner, we're all in trouble. But you get to higher levels of it and go, well, it's actually karmic. It's not just shameful. It's not just bad. I guess there's karma. I've done to others. Others have done to me. And you're deciding how much to forgive and when. And that's one of the main factors. Down here, even if you learn forgiveness, you're still deciding who to forgive, when to forgive, and what to forgive. At this level, you're like, I don't even care. I don't even have any opinions on the matter. I'm just doing what I can to love. So like in a Buddhist technique, as you're bringing these things in, you're just washing them with love and compassion, with patience, and they're healing. It's beautiful. There is a third, a state of consciousness of grace. This isn't one you can achieve. You can't just go, I'm deciding I like this talk today. I'm going to now be in a state of grace. Ready? Go. It doesn't work that way. You can't bring yourself into a state of grace. You can only get to this level, which is perfect. You can get to this level, which is your soul. And in this level, you open up, you practice, you don't let things stick too much that come from here, and you bless them and you forgive, bless, forgive, bless, forgive. And one day, when you've got this down just right, you're actually lifted by the Holy Spirit itself into a state of grace. You don't earn the state of grace. It just you become it organically, and you can't force it. One other thing I want to add. Some people might be thinking, well, these lower levels, karma and sinful, I'm a sinner, and repentance and tears and please God forgive me. Listen, whatever your level is, please own that level. Don't sit there and go, I need to get a higher level now. Stop. Please, if you're still in the state of you need to kneel and cry and pray and ask God, beg for God's forgiveness, please do it if that's where you believe you're at. Honor where you're at. Just add a little more, and are you willing to go higher? But honor where you're at. You will do yourself more harm trying to believe that you're further along in your forgiveness than you are. Yeah, but I heard there's more. Yeah, stop. when you finally made enough money to buy a VW, you don't go, I think I'll get a BMW. I get that, get the VW and buy a decal that says BMW and stick it over your VW. Own where you're at for now and just own that the VW someday, man, own that you're open to the other. My mom was kind of a space cadet. And one time she called me and she said, she wasn't close to my dad. So for him to do things for her was rare. And she's going, your father's giving me a car. I said, really? Wow. That's a first. I didn't say that, but I'm thinking, that's, what kind of car? A VW. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. He doesn't own a BMW. He doesn't buy he had money, and so forth. And so it doesn't make sense. Are you sure? Yeah, VW. And I'm like, you mean a BMW? She goes, well, VW, BMW, what's the difference? And I'm like, I can't explain it, man. I can channel many things, but I got no answer for that one. You don't know the difference. So when we practice forgiveness, we are as close to God as you can be while on earth. Those moments of forgiveness open you to grace. My ability to forgive, not just at this level, my ability to forgive at the heart level prepares me for miracle-mindedness, consciousness. I'm living in miracle-mindedness, and that is what helps me seemingly deserve the next, which is a state of grace. But it's not because of my work at forgiveness that gets me to a state of grace. It's actually the true belief in what God is. It's like celebrating and being in a state of gratitude that God never bought into the things that we think we have to forgive. And when I say all this, I'm not being insensitive that some of us have gone through big hurts. I get that. So you might say, well, he's saying there's no purpose in forgiveness. No, I'm not being insensitive. If you're at this level, let's work at this level to forgive. And you might even still say, I'm still there are things that are unforgivable that have happened to me or things I've done that I cannot forgive. Let's sit there and own that for now. Just be willing to own that there's maybe better, maybe more, but own where you're at. Because if you're still hurting that deeply, by all means, please be there. Be there. Let all people that love and practice love and forgiveness and consciousness, let us send you a container of love to wrap you in. Let us hold you in prayer and in hope, because it's going to happen one day where you go to look for that hurt and it's just not there. And that means you've gone to another level, whatever level that is. You've gone to another level. Forgiveness restores our mind. It's the most spectacular thing, because we think forgiveness is simply someone wronged you and you're willing to overlook it. That's very primal. It gets much better. It also gets to you forgiving yourself, not just others for what you believe they did. But then it gets higher and higher and higher and higher to, wait, now I'm getting to the point where less things to forgive. Then all of a sudden there's a point where I'm not even judging anymore to even bother forgiving the things I judged. Not because you're pretending things didn't happen. There's not a charge on them called judgment. And that's not because you've gone into denial. It's because they don't have the power they seem to have once had. It's like you're developing immunity. So when you see a good natural doctor, holistic doctor, or practitioner, it's interesting. They don't tell you there's no such thing as colds, but they nurture immunity to colds. You see the difference? But they're not pretending there's no such thing as viruses. But the truth is, if your immunity is big enough, healthy enough, present enough, your body wards these things off. So do you need to be as afraid of catching a flu or whatever it happens to be? Do you need shots? And maybe not, because your center in wholeness, healthiness, is shining brightly enough. And in a way, that's what forgiveness becomes. For a while, an immunity. And then it goes higher and higher. At first, it'll still involve others and things that have happened and so on. And the hurts can, sneak up on us. Please don't get caught up in that where you are practicing forgiveness and love, compassion for months and months and months, and then an old memory comes up and it hits you and it just in your gut, or it just paralyzes you for a moment. Then what happens? Now you're judging yourself for being susceptible. Oh my God, I can't believe I collapsed into judgment or hurt. I should have been over that. That's the ego sneaking in on your forgiveness techniques. It doesn't go, well, I'll steer clear of forgiveness. No, the ego is going to go after everything it can, as evil does. Ego does. So, yes, one of you asked about devotionalism. Starting your day, plugging into God is part of your immunity. See, it's not about you just doing the forgiveness. Plug into the presence of God. Give thanks for the Divine Mother's presence in your being. Your light is shining and you're actually baking off all the stuff that was encrusted around your being and your aura about whole old hurts. You see? They just bake off and fall away. So it's kind of beautiful by my plugging into God, not by my forgiving what happened, but by my very holiness, my presence of God in my being. And you're asking about remaining neutral in crisis. That's exactly right. Remember, this is a hard one for us, but crisis comes your way. Hurtful people come your way. You could say from one perspective, how could they do that if there wasn't some karmic cause, right? But forget the karmic cause, because then you'll be judging yourself for that. Oh, great. So Michael took us from judging ourselves to, it's my bad karma. It's the same. No, get away from that for a sec. Instead, my centering into grace is an immunity. And my old self used to not center into grace. It used to center into inadequacies, low self-worth. If that's your center, if that's your mantra when you start your day, unknowingly, I start the day and I have a sense of, when's the other shoe going to drop? Money doesn't grow on trees. Love never lasts. These are mantras we have. If that's my keynote, then that's the symphony that's going to be playing. So what happens is centering into God is an immunity. It becomes how I feel. It becomes my mantra, my thoughts, and I'm living in that beautiful consciousness. Then it will attract things like itself. But when you have secret, unhealed, even unknown wounds, they become your keynote. They become your conductor that calls forth the symphony to play certain tunes. And it attracts hurtful things, hurtful people. So, in other words, forgiveness is something we do after we seem to have hurt others or others have hurt us. But that's still a cause and effect pattern. So believe it or not, even when people are drawn to come to hurt you, believe it or not, there's a musical note they hear in you, like low self-worth, and they come after it. And I know that's hard to believe because some of us have said, no, that can't be me because I'm just wholly innocent. I don't do any harm to anybody else. Listen, Job in the book of Job tried the same thing. What? I don't get it. Why are all these hurtful things happening to me, Lord? I'm a good guy, and God says, let me look at this situation. Job, this was a story written by Melchizedek called the Book of Job. And it's a metaphor about people going through the dark night. But it's got all kinds of pieces to it. But the Book of Job, it's so when we're saying, I don't understand why things are happening to me, I didn't do anything, I'm a nice person, and they still happen. And Job is told by God, listen, you only know Job as long as you've been Job. I knew Job before he was Job, which means past lives. You see? Now, that doesn't mean I'm trying to shoot you down to where you're going, oh, great. So I was trying to combat feelings of guilt and shame, thinking I'm a pretty good person. And now Michael said, well, but you've been a loser in past lives. I'm not saying, yeah, it's true. It's true. But it's when I went through the dark night for the first time, heavy duty, man, I remember saying, I don't get it. I mean, this is what I was saying, to be honest. I was like, I don't get it. I'm a pretty good guy. You see, I'm not like pretending. I'm like, I've never been cruel, vandalizing. I'm a pretty good guy. And besides that, in case you haven't noticed, I'm on tour teaching people. I'm spiritual and I'm in service. And how could this be happening to me? And the voice answered and said, don't take it personally. It's the way of this world, meaning this is a natural thing. And even if you're holy, you're still living in a fallen world that's going to try to beat you up. So don't try the holy card, because even if it's true, you're in a world where we are not all holy. You see? So whether if they shoot Gandhi, crucify Jesus, I mean, that's kind of what the world does. An evil place tries to punish good people. So don't take it too personally. Now, I heard that, and I mean, to be honest, I was like, well, that's not helpful. Why is it not helpful? Because it didn't get me out of it. Which means we want what we want when we want it, right? So then you got to look at that. And I have to forgive myself for whatever else I put out there that's drawing this, for having a dark night of the soul, for believing that I needed this soul cleansing called the dark night of the soul, for judging myself, for judging the world, for beating up on me when I feel like I was a good person. Doesn't matter who you are, what you've done. It doesn't matter. You're in this world. Stuff is going to cycle around and come your way. Some of it might seem like it doesn't make any sense. Great. Stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself about that and get it out of your system, because it's not going to help. When the dark night comes, it's purging things you've known about and didn't know about, which makes it even more confusing and can tempt you to feel even more like a victim. Peace in your family and in your relations. You know, some of us are still looking for partnerships or family members where there's no problems. It's like funny. That's not likely going to happen. You know, you could be one in a zillion that creates a partnership that is a gifting relationship rather than a karmic one. It can happen. But at the same time, gifting relationships come to you not because you're special, or not because God just went, I haven't put out one of those for a while. I think I'm going to give somebody a gifting relationship. It's not happenstance. Gifting relationships come from the work you've done with the challenging ones. So hang in there through the karmic relationships. I call it karmic because it means someone's manifested this. See, I call it karmic so that we know if you've got one of these people, that they're probably there because of something. Not like, a funny thing happened on the way to life today. There I was in my perfection, and all of a sudden, karmic, horrible people showed up. We have to call it karmic because it's two-sided. And it doesn't make you a bad person. But judge it, hate, blame them, then you're a bad person. Because you're shifting into negative, untrue consciousness. So I'm using the word bad as part of the metaphor, but you see, instead, it's like, how do I find peace instead of this? I mean, you and I, this isn't the world we think it is, where we aren't growing, or then we get on the path and we start growing. There's a lot of bigger stories behind all of it. At the end of the day, when we die and go to the other side, what seemed to be just a linear story of challenging people in our lives. One of you asked about vulnerability. What do I do with that? How do I come out and work gradually on becoming more vulnerable, but not vulnerable in the susceptible to pain, susceptible to trauma, vulnerable? How can I be vulnerable without the possibility of being harmed? We're putting that on a world that wasn't created to be that peace, that joy. We've messed up this world. We have to be the ones to unmess it up. How? Forgiveness. Oh, great. So I'm just going to sit around and let everybody do what they want to me, and I just have to keep forgiving. Oh, no. Your connection with God will not attract some of the same dramas of the past. It won't. I'm not shaming you about the past. I'm just saying it won't attract the same stuff. So by immunity first, God first in all things, by immunity first, but then forgiving what has happened, and then third, forgive what is happening. You see, the past, present, future, all brought to a place of bliss, a place of grace. This sounds like work to a degree. I swear what happens though is it starts falling away on its own the more you remain in your center, the more you commune with God. Honestly, if you're communing with God each day, judging just doesn't make sense. It's not like I have to, rubber band. I shouldn't judge. I shouldn't. It's not like you have to use techniques to counter judgment. I'm saying to you, it becomes of no interest to you. It's an amazing thing. Your mind just starts not going there so much. That's what makes it easy and easier, or with less effort. And then there's a point where we're realizing, I feel like I'm living in a state of grace. I feel like peace is overcoming me. Trusting changes, trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting that today my astrology report in a magazine said terrible day, but I'm saying no. I will respect that it's a possibility and I'll stay aware, but I can actually change everything by changing my mind. We can, because your mind is actually reflecting your beliefs. In our soul are our core beliefs. Why I wrote a book called Soul Level Healing. This is where you heal. The rest is actually just special effects. Physical healing, emotional healing, and healing intellectually. They're beautiful, but believe it or not, they're made easy when you shift things in your own belief systems. And here is your beliefs in, are you a holy child of God or not? And you can say yes, doesn't mean you believe it. Saying it means you're on an intellectual level going, yep, I'm definitely a holy child of God because I read it somewhere. Really? And then stuff's going on symptomatically in your life and it doesn't reflect that. You got to go back not to the thinking, not just the emotions or the body. You go back here and go, God, deep down, I've got some beliefs that I'm unlovable, or I've done some naughty things, or I'm still holding on to things others have done to me. Whatever it is. Erroneous beliefs. They're all erroneous because they're not of God. There's only one belief that's true, and that's the truth. Only the truth is true. And it should be the only one that matters, and only God is true, which means when you say to yourself, to the universe, whatever, who am I really? Are you open to the real answer? Do you want the answers of the world? Do you want the beliefs in your heart, or do you want the truth of God? And we can all say, I want the truth of God. And so God says, wow, I just got an invitation to a ball, in your heart, there's an invitation, a party where you're willing to receive the truth of who you are. And I'm bringing it. God flies on down to your heart and there's a sign, no vacancy, no room in the inn. And then we go, oops. How do you know that happened? Because you prayed for peace and it ain't happening. It's impossible for God to not bring you the peace you asked for. If it's not happening, there's no room in the inn. Don't judge yourself. Laugh the way you just did. Go, that's so funny, man. 10 days in a row I've been calling, the peace of God, and I've had nothing but misery. Wow. It can't be that God didn't answer. Then you're going back to your beliefs that you're undeserving. Instead, have a bit of a sense of humor and go, oh my God, as much as I thought, yes, I'm calling it in, I already had opinions blocking the answer. Just catch it a little bit. Oops. So then in that moment, you open your soul up and you say, things known and unknown, my beliefs that I'm aware of and that I'm not aware of, karma, whatever it happens to be open. I don't have to know all the things, all the details. Just open up vulnerably to God. I must have beliefs that I'm not deserving of love or peace or wholeness or healing or abundance or whatever it happens to be, without even knowing the details of where, when, how. Just own somewhere something's not right. Whatever it is, I give to you, God. And secondly, I ask for it to be replaced with the truth of God. And that is that I am deserving. I can choose peace instead of this. So there's all kinds of, levels of forgiveness. The general, group 1, 2, 3, or specifics. The lower it's subdivided into 3 parts, let's say. But I want to say this, believe it or not, there's thought systems, there's religions, there's spirituality, there's religions, there's spirituality, and there's God, which is beyond. But when you're thinking about a person or a thought system, let's say you believe in this book, that teaching, that teacher, teachers, all of them, teachers, teachings, books, all of them can actually be evaluated. How high is that thought system? You have a thought system you follow, a philosophy you follow. How high is it? Wouldn't you want like the highest possible, yes or no? Yeah. How do you know where they are? You know why? How? It's because go by the level of forgiveness that they teach. Not to judge the ones that are lower, but if a teaching is you're a sinner and you need to repent, don't throw that one out. Just realize that's here. If that's your belief system, if that's your thought system, if that's the religion you follow, great. But just know where it is. It's part of my human beliefs. If you find a thought system that teaches unconditional love and, you see, forgiveness, it might be a different thought system. It's kind of cool. But teachers that say love, forgive, and then they, really preach hatred, maybe they're down here a little further. And it's the same for yourself. How high are you? I don't want to hear people telling me how fifth dimensional they are. Are you loving and forgiving? That tells me you're very fifth dimensional when you can see peace instead of this, when that's what your work is. Tell me that you're fifth dimensional and then start telling me about your political views. You've lost me. You're completely gone. Not because it's impossible to talk politics and be spiritual. That is possible. But the words would be very different from what you're used to hearing. It would be love and grace and peace to all. I remember in early days of practicing spirituality, it was a consistent thing in groups that we were conducting and all that. It was a consistent thing to not just meditate, but when the meditation is done, take the energy and send it to world leaders, political, religious, and so on. Send it. And there's people like, no, they don't deserve my grace. Like, wow, your grace is gone, baby. It's gone. Like, it done gone out the window and ran away and forget it. Keep an eye out for subtle ego invasions to your attempts, your intention to be a forgiving person. Knowing about karma is higher than just I'm a sinner that's beyond forgiveness. It's higher. It's good, but beyond karma. See, and if you tell people, I heard karma's an illusion, so that means I can do whatever I want. No. You have to respect the illusion. For now, you and I have to practice forgiveness, which isn't real. That doesn't make sense, but it does. Why? Because for now, we're not in a mind completely filled with grace. Holy Mother, the some prayers you'll even hear the words grace, right? Grace brought it. The word mercy isn't the same. Mercy implies I'm going to overlook in my infinitely divine, compassionate heart. I'm going to overlook with mercy your sins. That's still people down here in the emotional level of forgiveness, which is fine, but it's an emotional level of forgiveness. I personally say to myself, no, I want to really understand it at a higher level. Now, so there's part of Michael that learned about higher levels of forgiveness, but that's probably secondary by a long shot to the other thing that taught me. Go to God and it downloads concepts of forgiveness. Getting forgiveness from God is more effective and more educational to me than learning about forgiveness going this way. But I'm glad I've done both. Coming this way with forgiveness, learning about forgiveness, taught me how to talk about it instead of sounding too airy-fairy. Mother full of grace. It's the concept. The Divine Mother, why in the prayer is it being full of grace? Because the Divine Mother is also known as the Holy Spirit. And it is full of grace. Full, not on some days. Full capacity, full of grace. Which means no matter what you bring to the Holy Spirit of God, yeah, but I've really done some naughty things. All she can do is, but I'm full of grace. I have no room for opinions. I have no room for your thoughts of karma on yourself or others. And here's what she says. However, whatever your beliefs are of what was done, not done to you, to others, its effects on you, I honor that that's where you're at, and I'll reflect that lesson to you. I'll show that to you. But she celebrates when we can say, hey, listen, I'm just touching base today. Had some really great epiphanies last night. Remember the 10 people I hated yesterday? Weird thing. I decided to give them to you. And she's like, like Fred Sanford. This is a big one, Elizabeth. She's like, what? I'm giving them to you. Oh, my me. This is fantastic. I can now bring you a reflection of a better life. Oh, so I deserve a bit. No, it's not you deserve it now. It's you move the veils to it. See, and that's the key. People just don't seem to hear and understand. We're in the way. When we ask God for things, God's going, you want what? Abundance, let's say. Prosperity. God's going, it's everywhere. Can't you feel it? See it? There's gold dust in the air. But human beings can't see it. Like Buddha's saying, you have to lift the veil to see heaven. You have to heal hurts, resentments, wounds. But my wounds are bad. I'm so sorry. And let me hold your hand and let's be together with you on that. See, I'm not going to invalidate your hurts, but because that'll cause more hurt and more resentment. Let me sit with you through it. But if you're a good parent, partner, teacher, whatever your role you're playing, know how to be present with people where they're at, but in the back of your mind, affirm you guys are going somewhere else. You take their hand and you say, I'm really sorry about that. But in the back of your mind, you're going, wow, let me hold this presence and tell you how loved you are. But you don't always say it because it might come across as invalidating that they don't feel very loved. You see? It's knowing the truth but respecting the illusion. To a degree, the great healers have to play the game. It's kind of what's called a bodhisattva. Someone that is awake, but they still play the game on this level. And some of us think, but that's lowering ourselves. No, that's how you become as high as you can possibly be in terms of vibration. To know the truth and bring it to a place of lower vibration, but not be affected by the lower vibration. That's a God. That's a master. That's the presence of heaven on earth, which means in that moment, you're creating what's called Eden all over again. We lost Eden, but it's coming back through our actions of grace on earth. Grace on earth is called forgiveness. Practiced on the earth plane, it's called forgiveness. Yes, there's even in mythology, there's the very idea that we ate from the tree of judgment, the tree of knowledge. Knowledge meaning knowing what's good and evil. So we were no longer in a perfect state of grace. And again, grace is not a state where you ignore evil because you're just, pretending it's not there. We're in a state of grace, oneness with God at some point. The metaphor of Garden of Eden is we chose to become judgmental people. But judgment doesn't mean we just started using words of judgments against naughty things. There was no naughtiness. There was no hurtfulness. It never entered our mind to be selfish and be hurtful to others or ourselves. And then judge those. So first, we separate from love and we become hurt. Then we become hurtful. Then we judge ourselves for becoming hurtful, and that's eating from the tree of judgment. There was another tree in the garden that most people don't know about, and that was the tree of forgiveness. So we could have said, I feel like I separated from love, and I'm becoming hurt by that. Now I'm becoming hurtful, but wait, I'm going to forgive myself for thinking I separated from God. I'm going to forgive myself for thinking I no longer am lovable. So really, forgiveness goes from forgiving others to forgiving self to no forgiveness necessary. One of the Stoic philosophers, you were asking, I remember a couple of weeks ago, if I would add Spinoza out of the blue, to our talk. What's funny is I remember you asking, his birthday was like 2 days after you as a philosopher, Spinoza. And I said the guy always cracked me up because he looked like one of the Three Musketeers from the Renaissance period. But anyway, and I realized after you asked, I thought, I think it's his birthday this week, and it was. Just an aside. Anyway, since there are other people here, I'll have to move on. But there's another Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, depending on how you want to pronounce his name, but he was fantastic, brilliant spiritually. But paraphrasing one of his statements is that there are people who need, to judge others means you need education. To judge yourself means your education has begun, and to judge no one means your education is complete. Beautiful, man. That's powerful stuff. Because what he's saying is, you can reverse it the other way. Not just the judging, realizing there's nothing to judge. You take it off of others to self, off of self to nothingness. Isn't that amazing? But you can't pretend. You can't go, I like that. I'm going to go, boom, to the top floor. I no longer judge anything. You have to start with look and watch yourself for when you judge others. But also go inside to where you judge yourself. And you might underestimate, because it sneaks in under the radar. It really does. You might even feel you're fairly good about not judging others. Watch yourself. No, I'm not. You might be aware of not being harshly, like overtly judging yourself. But every time you do something like, oh, I think I forgot my pill today, you're judging yourself for not taking the pill that you think fixes you in some way. And now you're upset about it. You can never be scared unless you have had an unforgiveness sneak in. Being afraid, even when your intention is to do good, it's still subtle forms of judging. If you think, I got to put on a coat or I'm going to catch a cold, I'm not being too harsh. Listen, when you say, I got to wear a coat or I'll catch cold, you're already interpreting that you're weak enough to catch a cold, that you're vulnerable. If you're vulnerable to cold weather, you're vulnerable to all kinds of things. Just watch for it. But see it, laugh at it, and put a damn coat on. It's okay to wear the coat, but just laugh a little at it, going, oh my God, that's funny. And what I would do is, this is a metaphor. I'm supposed to be putting on the armor of God. And I'm using a coat, which tells me that I trust more in a fabric than God. And I would laugh at that. You see? And then put on the coat and go about your day because you caught it and turned it around. It's okay. Forgiving ourselves for missing the mark is actually far, far, far more effective and important than making yourself never miss the mark again. That's called becoming neurotic or obsessive. I got to do my best, never to fail, never to, and so on and so on. We all have to take time to do an inventory on ourselves, please. Try to end today, try to end this week, this month, the year with a moment of heartfelt, here I am. Just do an inventory and don't think you'll know everything. Just own all the absurdities. Every time I try to fix myself, I've judged myself. And then I judge myself for not having fixed myself. Every pound you didn't lose when you wanted to. Every person you were with that you probably shouldn't have been with. All of it. Your weak discretions. All of it. Here I am, God. Let it shine. And if you talk to God about it. And then maybe you can even trust a sponsor or a counselor. That's pretty cool because it means you don't judge yourself as harshly when you're truly willing to share the darkest with someone. It's really beautiful. It means I'm being vulnerable and trusting, 2 words you asked about, vulnerable and trusting that somehow, even if I do this, I'm okay. For me personally, just briefly, hurts. Divorce, dark night of the soul the first time, that was hard, very hard. And there were subtle judgments I had about myself in dealing with it. I should have been stronger. I should have been, and those are just judgments sneaking in. It's not just about the relationship, the end of marriage and so forth, or the dark night. Those things were a bummer, but it was subtly. There's deeper self issues, you see? So I could say, oh, I'm having a bad day because I'm going through a divorce. That was a symptom. Deeper things were there, so I had to own that. The most challenging thing in my life was finding out one of my children were sexually abused. And that, totally rattled my cage. I didn't get enraged. Nothing like that. But my God, I mean, just this concept blew my mind. So very hard. But I'm telling thousands of people. But sometimes we blurt things because it's so dramatic. So I have to make sure I'm saying it not for effect and drama, but coming from the right place. See, keep yourself aware of yourself. What are you sharing and why? But if I can share something like this with thousands, why can't you share it with one? Or even just with God? Sit down and talk it out. Give it out. Here's where it's at. And there's a part of me that very much I'm here to serve God, to serve others, and be a good example and be a good channel and so on. But there's a part that can be very hard on myself if I think I slipped somewhere. Is that God? No. Therefore, it's something to look at and bring out and forgive. Probably it would be top, if not, I've already said things that hurt. I'm talking about my own self-judgments. Probably one of them I'd have to say is, it's an ironic one, because one of my greatest gifts is I feel like I don't judge very much. Like I don't care, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, black, white, I don't care. I feel really good about how in my life I've demonstrated like not judging people. Some of you have had sessions and you've told me wicked, horrible things, but I'm just with you. I'm cool with it. I'm good. Things you've done, other people, I'm with you and I support you when other people have hurt you. But when you've told me things you've done, I don't sit on the side of the phone going, oh my God. I get it. And it's interesting because I do the non-judgment thing, but there are subtle times when I wanted to be just so normal. I wanted to just be able to just feel normal and do normal things. But I can't relate much at times to this world. So when I say, well, why can't I just have a smoke and a beer? I've never had a smoke, but I'm like, why can't I just, there's times when I'm on myself about, Michael, let yourself just blend in, be normal. But I'm like, but I can't, it's not my interest. Michael, try coffee. For what? Like, I don't relate. It doesn't compute. So I sit here, and that's a struggle for me. Not because I'm good or evil. We feel conflicted. Ask for peace in the conflict so that this stuff falls away. It's not, now you can drink coffee, now you can have a beer. It doesn't matter. But you've now become true to yourself. So take time to look at your inner conflicts so they can get the knots combed out. And it's not about because you're supposed to be doing or not doing, and there are times when I've tried to be such in a non-judgmental state that when people have asked me to do things, be things, share things that didn't feel right for me, I still did it so that I'm demonstrating that I'm not judging it. Does that make sense? And I think we've all done that. Because when you're on the spiritual path, you're sort of trying to be that thing more and more and more. So there are times, and I remember being asked, I'll be brief and then we're going to come to a close. I remember being asked to be counseling people, and there was a motion picture kind of a documentary that was being created. So I flew to Malibu about 10 years ago to do this project. What they said was, we're going to get couples that are struggling couples, but strangely, in the porn industry, there are actually couples in the porn industry. And And we want you to counsel them. And I just totally get it. I'm like, it doesn't, yeah, I'll go and I'll make a difference. And I did. You should have seen the terror-filled miracles going on with people that didn't seem to have a conscience around certain things. They were breaking down. It was so beautiful. But because more money could be made if producers, directors could get these people to actually do some of their industry playing, it would make more money. I'm there to help them heal, and they're actually telling me, literally, Michael, get them, to start doing something. Yeah, and that was hard for me because I tell no judgment, but yet that doesn't feel right. That event caused me deep hurt, confusion, pain, because I'm trying to be who I am. You're trying to coax me into doing something else. Now, since then, the people involved, years later, specifically apologized. They said, if we were asking you to do things that you didn't want to do, we really apologize. And the non-judgmental Michael went and said, oh, that's okay. But it did bother me a little because it was contrary to why I was there and so on. And the feeling you get when you do things like that, and I don't mean to be gross, but when a person has gone on a date thinking everything's okay and someone forces them or uses them, there's the gross aftermath. You follow what I mean by that without me detailing it? And so I had that at times in my life, and not because people asked for a hug or a kiss or something simple. I'm talking just more deeper things where I chose to go too far or other people coaxed me. That's my deepest, darkest secret that I'm sharing with you. It's hard stuff. But every time you and I are not fully in our divinity, we're bargaining ourselves away. And we hurt over it. Not just my instance, all of us, in all instances. But it's not just when you did a deed. I didn't want to be a smoker, but they talked me into smoking, peer pressure. No, I'm talking about not being in heaven is the ultimate bargaining. Not being one with bliss, we've all sold ourselves out. Now you just have to be honest about in what ways you judge yourself for it. Because the truth is, the grace of God doesn't say you probably need to do some forgiveness and come home. The grace of God says, hey, want in on a secret? It never happened. You dreamt you left God. You dreamt you were naughty, and now you dreamt you forgave yourself. Good for you. But ultimately, you never left. You had a dream. You had a nightmare that you left, became naughty, got judged for it, and then eventually forgiven after trillions of lifetimes of karmic burning it off or good deeds. And it's like the good news. So remember this. Out here, do what you need to do to heal things and forgive things. But in the back of your mind, in a state of grace, you're holy, man. Nothing can touch that. Nothing has ever wronged you, shamed you, lessened you, lowered you. It never happened. And I know that's a tough one for us to accept. What I'm saying is there is a dimension where none of that was ever done or seen. It's not the dimension we're living in, which is why we have to forgive the place we're at, the belief systems that are reflected in the place we're at. Forgive for now. But know in the back of your mind, isn't it cool that in some other part of my being, there's a knowing that I am made in God's image, and it's impossible to harm me or for me to have ever been selfish or done harm. You see that? Anytime you doubt that, you're allowing your opinions to be more powerful than God or God's opinions. I choose the truth of God. And I say that, but I still had those challenging moments. I still, truth of God, but in the moment that they're filming this stuff and they're whispering, Psst, Michael, it was weird and stressful because now I'm letting them down. They're paying me as an advisor in a movie. Is it wrong for me to say no to them when they're paying me? You see what I mean? Do I stick by my spiritual knowing where I also claim not to judge things? So should I just go along? And because go back to my first point, doing right by God and others is so important. The idea of doing this wrong was extra harsh in my mind. You see? You get what I'm talking about there? So I had to give a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm grateful that generally speaking, the answers I choose to listen to, the answers I follow, are the ones that are close to center. I might wobble a little here and there, but generally they're close to center. On the outside, they're 99% of the time on track, on center. Inside, it's not, because I'm a little hard on myself. So inside, I might score an 80 to what other people see as a 99. You know, and that part of us is the perfectionist. And you've got to ease up on that too. Because you trying to fix yourself implies you're flawed. You trying to fix yourself implies that God's ability to fix you if there's any fixing needed would fail. Keep surrendering it. I own that those thoughts are there, those feelings are there, and I just do what I would tell you and anyone else. Keep surrendering them to God. Please take a few centering breaths. Even if this is done in a minor way today, by the end of the year, try and do this in a big way for yourself. Take a moment. You've heard what you've heard today. I've shared from my heart the guts of my own stuff. Get to know your own. Get to know your own. Let's vow not to take guilt, shame, and regret from the past into yet another year of our lives. It might leak in there, here and there. I don't care. Say to yourself, my intention is to not go into another year tainted by, affected by guilt, shame, regret. I'm vowing for this. Vowing. This is my intention. And to get to that place, it's not something I'm going to put effort into. This is God's will. It is the divine will of God that I live a life that reflects holiness, not perfection, which is of my mind, holiness, that I am actually a holy being of light. A shining star, no matter who you are, shining bright to see what you can truly be. A being of light. God, I'm giving to you all these erroneous thoughts and beliefs, judgments, hurts, wounds. I'm not wrong for having been hurt, but I need to give them up. It's time. Opinions, karma, which sounds like a sacred word that we're supposed to keep. No. They're all opinions. I've done wrong, I have to pay for it. I've done wrong, I'm unforgivable, etc. And there are no brothers and sisters of mine that I would keep imprisoned, because that would keep me imprisoned, because I am judged as I judge. Not judged by God because of my judgments. It's a perfect match in consciousness. So to all people, known and unknown, that I hold a grievance with, I give you to God. You are as holy as God itself. I'm not giving praise to your behaviors. I'm talking about a purity in you that I probably didn't even see because of the hurtfulness. I give everyone to God. Those who overtly harmed me and those who harmed me through neglect of what I wanted that they didn't give, even if it was praise or a pat on the back. All forgiven. I don't need anyone because I have God and myself plugged in together. To myself, I'm so sorry you say to yourself, ever felt the need to be so hurt that you took it out on others, or judged yourself as weak vulnerable, susceptible, karmically indebted. None of this is God, so why would I keep it? These were my opinions. Some of them even seem to be like a conscientiousness, like it's right for me to feel bad for doing bad things. That's just another excuse. I'm giving everything as unconditionally as possible to you, Father, Mother, God. And God is saying to you, there is no greater gift you can give me any time of the year, let alone Christmas, than to give me your hurts, your judgments. It's what makes you come home. What makes you pure again. It's what reminds you of your holiness. When you're not carrying stuff, you become holy. You don't become innocent and holy because you've burned off all your karma. That's still effort. It's by letting go of these beliefs. So moving up the chakras, I rise to a new level. But connecting with God, the energy comes down from the highest heaven, washes over my heart and soul and restores it, reprograms it. What if my heart that once believed in debts and karma and then acted it out in my lower centers, what if in this moment my heart is opened and this waterfall of truth pours over me and washes me clean? Am I willing to accept that? What if a whole new program washes over me and it's a pouring of love and peace, worthiness, grace? And let's just take a half a moment to breathe that in. If you see any hesitation, don't worry, just note it and maybe work on it later. But why any hesitation? Why would I stall or hesitate? The will of God. That's what got me into this mess. Your will of my holiness be done. Your will of my innocence be done. On earth, even as it is in heaven. Fill us, Holy Spirit of God, with a feeling of grace. Let it fill our hearts. Let it wash down over our lower centers symbolically. And we feel full of grace. Imagine it as best you can, because by imagining it, you're anchoring it in. Hold in that presence, and lastly, imagine sharing it with whomever comes to mind, not just people you like or love, whoever comes to mind. The holiness I am, I share with you. Whoever comes to mind. Don't try to discern who's worthy or not. You might even be surprised at who shows up. Okay, be surprised for half a second and then move forward with it anyway. Still, I give you the love I am. I give you the peace I am. People, groups that picked on your race, your religion, your gender, forgive them. They know not what they do. You have the right to stay in the, I don't want to completely forgive, I'll do it over years. You can do that. Take your time and become a person evolving. Good. Or you can just say, why bother waiting? Let's go for it. Give everyone love, compassion. The grace of God, where I need do nothing but allow. And we give thanks in advance for the change in opinions, actions, reactions, love, forgiveness, peace. The peace of God I extend to you. And so it is. Just hold that inside. Let it really anchor and gradually stretch out. Take your time with it. Very good. How's that feeling? What did you hear or learn today that makes the most sense for you, that either for your life or difference it can bring to other people that you meet? Yes?
I had no idea that fear was related to judgment.
No idea that fear was related to judgment. Yes? Very good. Thank you. Yes?
What I learned was that you displayed to everybody in this room about your fears and your judgments, and online to all the people out there. Why is it that I have those same issues, and it's hard to trust just one person
Yeah, it's a good point.
to tell?
He's mentioning that here I am sharing with thousands, and he himself would have trouble even trusting one person. You have to, everyone has to come to that place, because the I don't trust one means you also don't trust the one of God. You can't find one person that can hear what you need to share. It's a very sad thing, because it means no part of God is trustworthy. If even one part of God is trustworthy, one person would be trustworthy. You see the metaphor of that, the parallel? And I'm not saying, you should all be, oh, this was wonderful. I'm going to just open my window of my house and go, hey, everyone. Because they're going to judge you. They probably will. Because you're being careless and you're putting yourself in harm's way so that you can have an excuse to never do it again. So you still can use healthy discretion. Maybe I'll start with a counselor who's supposed to be not only paid to keep confidentiality and hold space, but it's also in their rules as counselors to hold a certain space. It's in their ethics. A sponsor, if that's the appropriate place. Friends that you can talk to. Someone. Find one person trustworthy, and when you do, you can sit there and wait for the other shoe to drop. Oh, they're going to betray me any minute now. Or you can just do it and give thanks that you trusted. Notice how I said thanks that you trusted. I didn't say that they acted perfectly with your trust. They may or may not. Sometimes you'll take those few steps forward in trust, you'll get your hand slapped, and you'll be tempted to go back 6 steps and never trust again. That's a game your ego's playing with you. Trust, and if someone else blows it, say goodbye, maybe not connect with them anymore, but own that you trusted. I swear, even though it went badly, you grew. You trusted. Give thanks for that. The next one is probably going to be better because you're in a higher state of consciousness. I'm sorry that the people didn't originally act nice, or that people you entrusted sometimes blew it. I'm sorry that happens in a world where it happens. But you have the right to maintain, still, I trusted, so still, I'm a better person. Who else? Yes?
You had said many years ago, and it just always resonates with me, and it goes with your courage of sharing your own, aspects of questioning yourself and looking
Yeah.
back and reflecting.
Yeah.
But once you have to explain yourself, you're already misunderstood. So knowing and sharing that, you don't have to explain yourself, because so many of us can understand and relate to that
Right.
reflection of going. There, you can do all the work, but there's still that aspect that needs that love and that
Right.
forgiveness.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. And you caught on to so much of that, but thank you for sharing appreciation for the stories and how it connects people to examples of what I'm doing there. A couple hands were up here. Yes, dear.
God's grace, when you bring it right into the vulnerability. That is the
Yeah.
miracle.
The miracle is when you bring God, not when you perfect yourself, when you bring grace into the vulnerability. It's fantastic, isn't it? Yes, dear. Yes?
Play the game of illusion with love, grace, and forgiveness.
Play the game in this world with love, grace, forgiveness. One day there'll be nothing left to forgive, which is really cool. But that day is actually here and now for any of us at any moment we choose it. Yes, sir.
When I'm judging others, I need education.
Yeah.
When I'm judging myself, I'm beginning my education. But when I stop judging, I'm finished with my education.
Right. Isn't that beautiful?
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's brilliant. Epictetus. When you are judging, you need education. When you're judging others, when you judge yourself, your education's begun, and when you judge no one, your education is complete. In Latin, it's carsum parficio, kind of like my journey is complete. That's it's an Enya song, first of all. Carsum parficio. It is. It's an Enya song, but it's also on the gravestone of Marilyn Monroe and others who are trying to say, my journey is complete. Really, it's supposed to be, it is accomplished, like Jesus. In Latin, you could say Jesus' last words are not, it's accomplished. It's carsum perficio. It's accomplished. I did it. Okay? Anyone else? Yes?
I notice with things like the meditation work, and I've even experimented through this on my own free time, that as I forgive these emotions of the past and recognize my current living situation, some of the things no longer suit me.
Right.
My present and all of that, that it's sort of a natural byproduct that I can see myself gradually going like, okay, I require forgiveness
Right.
less and less. I
Right.
require acceptance less and
You're
less.
practicing this forgiveness, and you also come to realize you require less forgiveness. It's beautiful, right? And remember, it isn't that you still make mistakes, it's how quickly you forgive yourself. Because that's a subtle little game the ego plays. Even you thinking that you need to perfect yourself, which sounds good intended, right? It's, wow, I'm trying to be really, wait, you're trying to be what? Very spiritual. You already are spirit, grace. Yeah, but I'm almost there. I'm just a little more. And it's a subtle way of saying, I actually still judge myself as being here. And let me add this. We're not only stuck to this other place, there's a part of us that's addicted to it, to not being home yet. And that's really twisted. But that too shall pass. Even forgive that. You see? Even, like I said in my story, even when I'm trying to practice righteous, like good spiritual, demonstrate no judgment, the awkwardness of those moments at times was very painful inside. Trying to be this, but asked to do this and indebted to them for, this is like, I'm married to somebody and I vowed to stay, but they're physically violent with me. It's the same concept. You see, it's the same, I don't want to, reprimand my child who's straying because I don't want to be like my parents were. This is conflict we all have, and it needs to be brought to peace. And it can be brought to peace, but you got to recognize it and then own it. See it, or you can't do anything with it. Own it means, ooh, okay. I see that, the conflict. And giving it to God and letting it be replaced with peace. And sometimes, and please remember, forgiveness is more of a process than an event. It's layers and layers and layers. I teach this all the time, and therefore it's always downloading to me. I'm gaining from the things I share with you. Not because I never had them and it's a first time learning. It doesn't matter. It's layers. So I'm talking about forgiveness. I could be telling you things I've taught 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. Still more of me is being layered away. Talking it, living it, sharing it, counseling it in sessions. All these things you and I do, we become our greatest habits. First, we form habits, then they form us. So if your habit is to teach, live, talk, walk miracles, it's a natural byproduct. They come back to you and you start walking in the light of miracles. Walk in judgment, that's what you keep seeing coming back. Okay? Thank you. We're going to just take up our collection and do our closing prayer. Please be as generous as you can be. We greatly appreciate it. This is the month we close out the year. We want to have everything paid off and complete for the year. We're raising just, several $1,000s to complete everything. Thank you. The bags are for your donations. The baskets are for any extra donations you can share, whether it's coins at the bottom of your purse or just extra, or a tithe from something you've come into recently. Whatever it is, you can put that in the basket. We use that for our debts or for people of lesser means or for extra projects. So hold on to this. Feel this in your heart and soul. High intention. Together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Please stand for our closing prayer. In case you don't know, the folks online might just hear a sort of a chant. It's the light of God surrounds us, and then we repeat, we are the light of God. That's a great affirmation. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. And so on. Power of God protects us. We are, all of that we affirm in a great way. And then we close with God is, I am, we are. It's very, very beautiful and complete if you think about it. Breathe in grace, the grace of God. By the grace of God, I go. By the grace of God, I think, I feel, I am. In thoughts, words, and deeds. It's not just becoming a more forgiving person. That's part of it. Equally, if not more important, is the download of the grace of God. Downloads of what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is needed each moment. I refuse to end this day, week, or month, or year, at least. I refuse to end this year carrying the same old stuff into my next year. Why? Why bother? I'm ready to live by the grace of God, to be the grace of God to others. Think about it, man. There's souls on this planet that so need it. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.